Okay, you've convinced me. I will tell you how to buy a haunted doll. Dun dun dun. But full disclosure and disclaimer, if you decide to buy a haunted doll and they turn out to be demonic spawn that brings all sorts of bad luck and terrible things in your life, it is not my fault. Buy with caution. I do not actually recommend that you buy a haunted doll. Hello, my spooky crew, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is your first time here. My name is Alex, and thanks for coming to my spooky corner of the internet. One of the most popular questions I have gotten ever since I started releasing videos about my own haunted doll, Madison, who's right over here chilling out, is how do I buy a haunted doll? Where do I get started? X, Y, and Z. So I figured I'd make this little video to give you some guidance on how to buy a haunted doll. Seriously, half of my inbox is asking me how to buy a haunted doll and how to find a haunted doll. Why anyone would want to buy a haunted doll is beyond me. Okay, well, the reason why I bought a haunted doll was for experimental purposes. I wanted to see if the doll was actually haunted, and I did want to jump on the haunted doll craze. But there are people who are buying haunted dolls and finding out that they are getting much more than what they bargained for, meaning they weren't properly prepared. Now for me, I'm not having any really negative experiences with my haunted doll, but I went through a very specific process to find my doll. And maybe I was a little too cautious in the process, but we're gonna dive into that in just a moment. Before we start, be sure to click on that subscribe button, give this video a like, and be sure to click on that notification bell so you'll know the next time I upload a new video. And if you want spooky blogs, more videos, podcasts, and whatnot, all things spooky, then be sure to visit my website at thespookystuff.com. And I've also written several books about the paranormal that you can find on Amazon. All right, let's get started. Let's start out with how to find a haunted doll in the first place. So this is my first tip. So how I got started was I checked eBay, I checked Goodwill, I also went to estate sales, I went to garage sales, and I went to the flea market. So basically anywhere you can find used stuff. I mean, even Facebook Marketplace probably has some haunted dolls. They're around, you just need to know where to look. And when you're looking at the listings, feel out how you are feeling when you look at the doll. Like, do you get nervous? Do you feel relief? Do you feel nothing? Those are important things to note. And here's the deal too, when you buy a haunted doll and make that decision, be sure to start documenting as much as you can. You never know, you might end up making a video just like this. So yeah, anywhere where you can find used stuff, you'll probably be able to find a haunted doll. Now, some sellers aren't going to say this is a haunted doll, but if it's an old doll and it's vintage and it gives you spooky feelings, maybe. And you can always ask the seller, like, hey, is there anything weird going on with this doll? Or I get really creeped out by this doll. Can you tell me more about it? That's the key thing. Always say, can you tell me more about it? And for me, I didn't really have a preference where I got my haunted doll from. eBay was obviously the more popular place, and also it was the more search-friendly option, meaning I could type in haunted doll on eBay and I would get this huge list of haunted dolls. Tip number 2, read the description. This might be the most important thing to do as you shop around for a haunted doll. Now, you are depending on the idea that the seller is being honest. So there is a chance you may buy a doll that is reported to be haunted, but then once you receive the doll, it might not be haunted at all. That's a risk that you are going to have to be willing to accept. So going in and assuming that the doll is haunted, okay, let's move on to another part of this second tip. Reading the description is probably going to be the most important thing, and I say that because this is where you're going to get an idea of what your haunted doll is like. When you do online dating, when you're looking for a roommate, you read their bio, you read their description to make sure that there aren't any red flags coming up, and also you want to see if there's anything that you might have in common. When I was looking for Madison and I read her description, I was told that baking was one of her triggers and she really loved to bake in life and she loves her desserts and carbs. And I'm sitting here like, I like desserts and carbs, so we will probably get along just fine. And also her description described her as being an old woman who had passed away. Granted, that didn't end up being the case once I received her, but I wanted to make sure that when I got my haunted doll that we would be able to get along, so to speak. I really didn't want to get a doll that was going to be an adversary like right off the bat. I wanted to kind of have a gentle transition into owning a haunted doll because it's like getting a new roommate. You are inviting something or someone to come and live with you. Isn't that right? And also, if you don't want a negative entity or a negative spirit to come around, then be sure to read the description and make sure that you are not going to get that kind of doll. Again, assuming the seller is being honest. So speaking of the seller being honest, my seller was honest. She was great. But this goes into my third tip: ask questions. If you are not getting the answers that you are looking for as you are browsing haunted dolls, ask questions. Ask the seller, like, where did the doll come from? How do you know that it's haunted? Do you think it's haunted? What experiences have you had? If you're going to make the purchase, usually a seller will be more than willing to answer those questions. Also, vet whether the activity that the seller is experiencing is activity that you yourself want to experience, because it's going to affect not just you, but anyone else who is living with you, which goes into my fourth tip. Talk to your family, talk to your significant other, talk to anyone you are living with. Before I decided to buy my haunted doll, I talked to my fiance first. I asked him, hey, are you comfortable with this? If the doll ends up being haunted, are you okay with sharing a space with another spirit? If they're not okay, then maybe you need to reconsider whether or not you want to purchase a haunted doll. Because like I said, it is like inviting someone else to come and live with you. And that person could be great, that person could not be great. Because when you bring something like this into your home, it is going to affect your family and your significant other, your friends, anybody that you interact with in your home, or even just in your life. Tip number 5 happens after you've decided to buy the haunted doll. The first thing you want to do is set boundaries. When I opened up Madison, I introduced myself to her, I introduced the cats to her, I introduced Chris to her, and I said, hey, you are welcome to stay here, but you are not allowed to harm me, you cannot harm Chris, and you cannot harm the cats. So I really set those boundaries and really establish lines of, hey, this is what you can do and this is what you cannot do. And this might be why that me and Madison have had a really smooth transition as we've learned to live with each other. Now, she does like to scare Chris sometimes, and she does do some weird things, but it's nothing that is beyond my comfort zone. And this was really what I was looking for with the purchase of my first haunted doll. Was I didn't really want to be afraid to sleep in my own home, sleep in my own bed, and I didn't want to worry about the well-being of my fiance or my animals. So let's go into tip number 6. So you've bought your haunted doll, you've opened them up, you've set your boundaries. Now, I mentioned this before as you were going through the vetting process with your haunted doll. Number 6 is take notes and record. Now, this really comes down to why you want to have a haunted doll in the first place. Do you want to have a paranormal experience? Do you want to do some experiments with your haunted doll? That's why I wanted to get one, because I really wanted to see if, a spirit can be attached to an item and just have that experience for myself. And I also wanted to gauge whether or not there could be intelligent entities attached to an object, or is it more residual and just more of an energy imprint. So that was the reason why I wanted to get a haunted doll. So maybe I should retitle number 6 with ask yourself why. Why do you want to buy a haunted doll? And really, I probably should move this tip to tip number 1, but I'll just let bygones be bygones. But yeah, definitely take notes and then record your process, record the conversations that you have with your doll. If weird stuff starts happening, get a notebook and start writing down the date and the time and what happened. Really start keeping a detailed log of each incident. And make a note of whether that incident was brought about by you, meaning you started to have a conversation with the doll, or it just happened on its own. I've noticed that when I do a lot of baking, especially with like sweets and stuff, Madison tends to act up. And that actually matches her description. She was a baker in life and really enjoyed baking, so I know that baking is one of her triggers. So tip number 7, this also is going to depend on how involved you want to be with your haunted doll, but also ask for a second opinion. I know a lot of creators who get their haunted doll and then they decide, okay, well maybe I should have my haunted doll go live with someone else for a bit just to see if they have experiences. So definitely ask for second opinions. If anyone wants to babysit your haunted doll for a week or 2, let them do it and have them record and take notes on any experiences that they have, and then you can compare notes and see if there's any similarities. And you can also give it to one of your skeptic friends who does not believe in the paranormal or supernatural and see what happens there. Another thing you're going to want to do, and I'm going to say this is tip number 8, gosh, I've lost count, is you're going to want to cleanse and bless your space. Whatever you do to clear your space of negative energy, I would actually recommend doing this before your doll arrives, just because you don't know what, if there is anything attached to the doll, is it going to negatively interact with any spirits that are already in your space. So maybe not only talk to your family and significant other, but also talk to your residing ghosts and see if they're okay with a new friend. You may have a resident ghost that's like, no, I'm the star of the show, I don't want another spirit. So yeah, definitely cleanse and bless the space before the doll arrives, and then you might want to do it after the doll arrives too, just in case if there's any like extra like weird energy attached to the doll that decides to stick around. That's up to you, and that's up to you if you believe in that. Personally, I just did a smoke cleansing before Madison arrived, just to make sure that my space was nice and peaceful and clear. Number 9. Now, none of these tips have to be in any particular order, but figure out where you want your haunted doll to live. Now, Madison tends to be behind me when I'm recording a video, but usually she's either living on my dining room table or on my piano. And those were the two spaces I was most comfortable having her, because I didn't really want to keep her in my bedroom long term. I did sleep with her for the first couple of nights just to see if she was affecting my dreams at all. She ended up doing it, but not while she was in my room. But I wanted her to have a space of her own, and I wanted it to be comfortable, because I didn't want her to be in our bedroom, because it probably would have creeped out my fiance at some point as well. And also, I didn't really want her in my office with me, because I didn't want her to interrupt my workspace, if that makes sense. Feels like something just pulled my hair. Anyway, so she lives on my dining room table or my piano. She seems to like the dining room table more, and I think that's because that's where we share our meals, and that's where, you know, when I put my baked goods out to cool, I put them on the dining room table. And the dining room table is kind of turned into a place where everyone in the household gathers, like even the cats like to get on the table, even though they're not supposed to. So it seems like Madison likes to be at a place where everyone is gathered. So my experience with Madison, even though she is spooky and has done freaky things around the apartment, there's just a lot of love with her, which I really appreciate. It's a perfect transition for me to have a haunted doll, and she was a good starter doll. So she's been good. She's been good to me. Freaky sometimes, but good. And that sounded really wrong. And finally, tip number 10. Buy another haunted doll. Now, if you've got your haunted doll and you want to experiment more and have more experiences or do more experiments, then definitely consider buying another haunted doll. Now, this time around, when you buy your second haunted doll, talk to your current haunted doll and see how they feel about the process. And of course, as always, talk to your significant other, talk to your family to make sure that they're comfortable with it. You know, decide what kind of haunted doll you want. What kind of personality do you want? Do you want to be scared? Do you want it to have a negative spirit attached? You know, look for all those things in the description. All right, so those were my 10 tips on how to buy a haunted doll. And if you have any more questions for me, feel free to leave a comment on this video, and feel free to reach out on my website as well. And I do have a Facebook group just for the spooky stuff, so you can reach out to me there as well, and also ask other people in my community what they think, or ask them for advice. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give this video a like and share with your friends and family who also enjoy the spooky stuff. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next round.